Well, good morning, everybody. Today
Good
is
morning.
first year of the Year of the Rabbit, so we're doing a rabbit sketch. No, I just really like rabbits. But anyways, happy Lunar New Year. Get your supplies out. So you're going to need your 3 pencils or just one, that's fine as well. I have 3B, 6B, and 9B. And then also your erasers. Round or not round. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired today. If I start saying random things, please ask for clarification. Sometimes I can be confusing. Okay, so if you have all your supplies, let's get ready. We're going to start with our lightest pencil.
Jane,
Yes.
can I just mention to everybody about can you show the pencils again?
Yeah.
如果你哋邊一個係新嘅，冇嗰啲鉛筆嗰啲唔同刻度嗰啲鉛筆啊，係嗰啲鉛筆有1號、2號、3號到6號嗰啲咧。如果冇同我講，星期四我可以拎嚟。個星期四我哋喺教會嗰度見面，係咪？我可以拎嚟睇下你哋要唔要 ？OK？ Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Perfect. Let's start with your lightest pencil, which is the 3. And we're going to sketch out the shape of the rabbit. I think this is a bunny or rabbit, I'm not sure. So we're going to start with the largest shape that we can identify, which is the body. And if you were here for one of the earlier classes, we did some egg sketching. You kind of want to keep the same shape of the egg. It's not entirely round, not too much of a circle. That's quite wide as well. So just follow the curve. If you are left-handed, you can start over here a little bit. Whichever flows best for you. Make sure you're drawing pretty big. So fill up the whole paper, or as much as you can. Notice how I'm starting off with straight lines, and then we'll curve it out. So keep it pretty geometric. And then we have the body, the bottom of the body. When we first start, just do a straight line across. We'll carve the feet out later, but this line is to show where the bunny or where the rabbit is sitting on the floor. We're going to leave this part empty and then start again at the bottom. So let's wrap up the body shape. You can imagine it comes down here, and that's the front. It really does look like an egg. And if you are already done this step, the next step is to do the shape for the head as well. It's almost a repeat, but smaller. So the same shape, but shrink it a little bit. And if you're not sure where to start, you can always take a pencil or ruler or anything straight and just measure across your screen. And then compare where maybe the head of this, where the start of the head is. So for me, it's about to the right of the middle. You can also use your hand to measure if you feel like that's a little bit easier. Either way, I know that the head is to the right of the middle. So if I divide this in half, the head starts about here. Make a mark. And if you look at it, the top of the head, a common thing to do when drawing rabbits or any animal is that the head we put the head higher than the body, but a lot of times the head is lower than the top of the body, depending on the camera angles. But our head here is lower. So if you do a line, roughly about there, make a mark. And now that I have my 2 marks placed, I can start sketching out the head as well. Don't want to make the lines too sharp, too dark, just very lightly. Almost like a pizza shape. There's a triangle in this head. So if you can see the triangle, maybe that'll help. Because when we're drawing things from nature, there are a lot of natural curves, so organic shapes. And it is our job to find what those shapes are. So inside this blob, we might have a triangle and then something on the other side. Just simplify it for yourself. So get the slope of the head. And of course, we can't forget the ears. So the ears are kind of just two, I wouldn't say rectangles, but almost rectangles, except it gets smaller on this one, and then this one is a little bit wider. Keep the shape pretty simple as well. If you're good at finding angles, you can squint your eyes and measure using the top of what you've already drawn. So I'm measuring using the body and then drawing an imaginary line in the picture. And then I'm going to project that onto my drawing. And I know my ear needs to be a little bit taller or a little bit bigger. Okay, and now we're going to carve out the bottom of the rabbit. So where the body is kind of folding. It's a bit hard to see on this picture here, but we have this mane, which is the front of the chest of the rabbit. If you can kind of see where I am pointing to, this section is kind of the throat and then the front It's separate from the rest of the body, even though it looks like one huge piece. If you can see, here is one part, and then here is also another part. This is the belly. And then we also have the hind legs. So there's almost 3 circles going on here. Circle 1, circle 2, and then circle 3. So we're going to chop this section up into 3 round parts, starting with the front of the chest. Just going to take the pencil and make some inflections. So if you can't see, I'll make that a little bit darker. Just some hints of that shape starting in the front. I might move mine a little bit forward, if you don't mind. It's almost directly below the head. And then the body, or the belly, these are just guidelines. When we shade and add the textures later on, this will all be covered. And then you're going to sketch out the roundness of this hind leg. And don't forget about the tiny little feet down here at the bottom. You can't see this one, but there is a foot there. And these tiny protrusions, kind of like how we did the ears. So first I'm going to try and draw this out. You won't see it as clearly. And then also the ones in the front. Just capture the general shape. It's actually quite small. It's even shorter than the ear. So you can take the ear and then compare it to the foot. It's quite long and almost pointy. Okay, now let's move on to constructing the face. So where the parts of the face will be. It helps to know a little bit of rabbit anatomy, but the skull basically, it caves in where there is the eye, because it is an orifice, where there's a hole, but it also connects to the ears as well. So if you think about if you have a dog or if you look at yourself, your ears, imagine they're at the top of your head, and then just draw that line connecting down to the eye. Kind of like we're sketching out the brow bone. The eye is not entirely round. It's got a little corner in the front here. So although most of it is round, it's not a true circle. And there's this nice little patch of fur that's kind of going upwards. If you can tell, it's almost like the eyebrows, but not necessarily. It's just the fur that's a different color. Really helpful for us because we can see where the eye is in relation to the rest of the head. And then while we're here, I'm going to round out the top of the head. And now, if you are done with the eye, you're going to connect the corner of this eye down to the corner of the nose. All of it is relative. So imagine a line going down to the front of the face. And then now we have an idea of where the nose is. When you're drawing the nose, just lightly carve out where the most important lines are. Kind of V with the line. I'll draw on the side over here. And then it splits down the middle. But it's very subtle, very small and short. To be honest with you, I might even move the nose upwards a little bit, just on my drawing. Right now, I'm just looking back and forth between the two, seeing if I need to move anything. And I have a feeling that maybe the eye needs to be taller. don't have to move these things around, but if you're a stickler like me, then feel free to edit as you go. Oh, that's way too high. Let's move it back. Okay, and since all of the elements are placed in the image, we can start to add texture, shading, and details. So right now, all that we have on the page are construction lines. Some of these will be erased, for example, like this line, but not all of them. Let's start with the face. We're going to fuzzy the lines. So the lines that we have are very straight and crisp. What we're going to do is with your pencil, you want to create sketch lines that are now similar to the texture of the object. So for a clear instruction, if you have a line that's just like a line, you're going to fuzzy out the line. So just create small strokes instead of one long line, and then later erase the line, and then you're left with the texture only. So on the back, for example, the fur is going in this direction. So you want the strokes of your pencil when you're adding the texture to start creating that texture as well. What we're doing is kind of blurring the edges. And then same, I'll show you what to do with these more soft lines. Keep the spacing pretty far apart. I'll erase it first so we can see what's going on. Basically, you want to keep going in the same direction, but keep the lines a little bit longer and further apart. Let me bring it a little bit closer so I can show you what I mean, if it will focus. So basically that, just a few lines. The closer they are together, the sharper of an edge you get. And then the further apart, you get more of a softer edge. Okay, and we're going to do the same for the belly. So just kind of feel for where those curves are happening and where the body is changing its shape. And when you're sketching in the body, make sure you follow the direction of the fur growth. This is very important when you're drawing animals that have fur. Okay, let's zoom in on the face a little bit. We're going to focus on the head now. So hopefully that's a little bit clearer for all of you guys. We're going to, do you see these dark patches of fur? This black line, and also this one. And just wherever you see lines and where it's changing colors, we're going to sketch the dark parts first, and also this area around the eyeball. So I'm going to, this almost looks like a mustache or a beard. So let's start from the top. And just sketch our way down. It doesn't have to be precise. There's also this black line over here. So at the corner of the eye. Okay. And then, right, okay, let's start from the ears and start shading now. So this is where we establish our values. Right now, our rabbit is white, but the rabbit in the picture is brown. That means we do have to shade it. To make things a little bit easier, I'm going to turn this into black and white. Back to the image. Hopefully this is a little bit more easier to follow. I like to sketch when the picture is also black and white, so you can see clear values. All right, so now we're going to start around the edges, or I like to start with the darkest areas. And just like how we just did the body, we're going to start detail sketching. So follow the direction of the fur. And you don't want to say this is your ear, for example. Try not to sketch all at once. So like that. Makes it look flat. But instead, try changing the length of your sketch marks. What I mean is you see some short ones at the top, the fur gets shorter at the top, and then it's longer down here. And that's just natural for the rabbit. So same thing with our pencil marks. You want to copy that. It's long at the bottom, and when you get to the top, do small, short sketch marks. And then change the direction sometimes, or the angle. So maybe the sketch is going this way, and then do it this way. Because if we all keep it in one direction, the fur looks too smooth. So make it a little bit random. Then moving on to this ear, notice how it gets a little bit darker around the edges. And then following this corner here is a very interesting curve to better show you what the fur is doing. It's going up and then curving into this corner. And everything's wrapping around itself. So this is the direction of where your strokes are going to be. So that means this section, this little triangle area here, is going to be the darkest because that's where all of the lines are going towards. And then just work your way down the rest of the head. Pay attention to how soft and how hard the fur is. Behind the ears, the fur is very soft. At the front of the head, where in the winter they need to be warm, the fur is a little bit harder. So when we're sketching, make sure when you're sketching here, keep your lines soft. You can, instead of using a tip, use a side. And the front, where it's a little bit sharper, almost like a porcupine, you can take your pencil and use a sharp edge. But most importantly is that you have the right values. So how dark, how light everything is. So I'm just carving out behind the brow bone. Make sure to keep that area of white between the eye and then the fur. And pay attention to the slight shade shift. So over here, it's a little bit darker, and it gets lighter here. Dark and light. So in the inner corner, we like to make that a little bit darker, just a little bit more. That means maybe pressing a little harder with the pencil or layering more. And every once in a often, step back and then just look at it, because we don't want to be too caught up in one small area. Make sure we're seeing the whole picture. There's a little bit of white on the nose. And then change directions and come to the top of the head as well, if you haven't already. We're going to start at the vortex. Remembering to keep that strip of white. And if you're ready to move on, we're just going to continue this type of shading down the whole body. We got the most difficult part of the face or the body out of the way, which is the face. Now the rest of it is completely up to you on how you want to do it. If you want to keep the patterns or if you want to not keep the pattern. Now that you know how to shade, the rest of the body should be a little bit easier. And if you feel like you're ready to switch to a darker pencil, you can do 6B. Either way, I'm going to keep using this one. So I'm starting with the head area and just noticing, looking at the picture, noticing where areas are a little bit darker than others. Maybe over here. And let's begin. Always follow the direction of the fur growth. And another tip is when you're shading the fur, especially the front area where it's going in different directions, instead of having the fur go in the same direction when you're shading, try to change the direction of your pencil marks so they overlap. So instead of going like this, that looks flat, change, maybe make some small X's here and there, but the direction is still generally like this, just that you have left-right crossovers, so it looks more interesting. And then be careful to just change the pressure of your pencil sometimes. If you press hard and then press a little bit softer, you want to get that difference. And that's how we get texture. And just keep going. The hardest part of drawing animals is sometimes it gets a little bit boring. So feel free to get up and take a break because it can get boring and tiring after a little bit. But take your time. At this point, I'm looking at the picture and then I'm seeing how the bottom of the fur, mine is a little too dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eraser and try to find the sharpest edge. Not sure where. Just start erasing a little bit of the edge. I'm going to go back later and bring back the lines, but right now I'm just erasing some of it because it's a little too dark. I want to make it feel like the fur is translucent. I'm going to move to the back, so the larger area of the body. If you are also doing that, you can switch to your darkest pencil or your medium dark pencil. I'm just using a 6B because this is quite dark, and if I use the same one, it'll be hard to get it darker and it'll just look the same. So start again from the back where we left off. If you notice, you might start to see these white areas come out. How you can do that is just like how you would shade or draw them out, make some areas dark and some areas light. Just spread out how where the shading is. So basically I'm just going back and forth in a V shape and then making it darker, going up and down, left and right. But just keep that going in the fur as well. Going to take a brief finger break. So just if you feel like, I know for a lot of people, if you sketch in the same motion like all the time, it's going to get a little bit tiring for your hands. So feel free to just take a break, go on a walk for a little bit. We'll be back in maybe 30 seconds. Stretch those fingers. Squeeze your hands, make sure that it's not cramping into one position all the time. Flex them, twist them around, but not too hard. Just make sure you get the blood flowing again. Okay, and then we're back. Or take your time. There really is only one area left, and that is the whole body. There's a little bit of white here, so you can keep that if you want. So now I'm pressing a little bit harder to make it dark. Just going over the patterns. And if you feel like it's easier, you can also just flip your paper around. If you feel like that's a little bit more comfortable. Sometimes we don't always have to draw flat. If it follows the flow of your hand a little bit better, feel free to just tilt your paper. Otherwise, I'm going to keep mine flat like this. Let's do another stretching break, breathing break. It's very important that you take care of your body as well when you're drawing. Drawing is an activity. So get up and stretch if you want. Maybe stand back, look from afar. Okay, and we are back. So just continue making the areas a little bit darker, adding some values, adding some texture. We're almost done. Just need to also maybe add some of the ground details as well. And of course, fill in the eyes. I like to leave that for last, if you haven't realized. Gonna go in and fill out the feet in the front. So let me just zoom in a little bit. Hopefully that's okay. And one interesting thing about this area is that the fur on top is white or a little bit lighter. And then we have a shadow on the foot. One way you can do this is imagine there's a bunch of arrows cutting into the fur. It's like tiny little arrows, almost like you're cutting away at it. And then only shade the bottom. So for example, on my sheet, different shaped triangles, and then just shade below. And then you'll create that effect of having white fur and also at the same time shading the foot. a little bit too dark, so I'll take my eraser and erase just the front tips of those feet, the paws. And if you weren't sure how the feet look, I can show you that it's like, it goes up a little bit, and that's almost the knuckle. And that's the back of the foot. I believe that is the first toe. It's kind of like a dog's foot. And then you shade just the top part. That's where the shadow is. Really rough demonstration. Hopefully that helps a little bit. So it's just kind of like our own fingers. One's in front and one's in the back. And then you shade the area between them. And now just buffer out the bottom of the rabbit, just the bottom. And over here, we have a little bit of a confusing situation because where is the foot? Foot is kind of hidden here. We don't have to draw it, just shade the values. So what I mean by that, you don't have to draw the foot like we did for the front ones. Just show that there's something there. It's kind of just a mess of fur. And honestly does not make too much of a difference to the picture. I'm also going to erase these construction lines. Okay, and then if you're ready, we're going to fill in the eyes if you haven't already. So let me just zoom in a little bit. A little bit more. So yeah, for this one, I'll use my darkest pencil because it is mostly just all black. And then just start filling in the eye. It's not all black. As you can see, there are some reflections in the eye. So make sure you keep that there as well. I like to just sketch the outline before I shade anything. And then just start filling it in. There's also a smaller highlight at the bottom if you want to include that as well. And for the extra details, if you zoom in a little bit more, there's that tiny black line. I don't know if you can tell here, but this is not the eye. This little black strip, that's the eyelid. So let's also draw that in, just a tiny hint of that eyelid above the eyeball. Just like that. Notice how there's no definition before, and now there's that little piece. And if you have a dark pencil like 9B, this is my darkest pencil. If you don't have a darker one, that's okay. I'm just going to darken up this area in particular, just this corner over here, to make the 3-dimension pop out a little bit more. But if you don't have a darker pencil, you can get started on the background. So just shade a little, give it a little bit of a shadow, maybe some leaves on the ground, but if that's what you want. Otherwise, you can darken up the fur before we do the background. And then maybe also darken the edges of this ear over here. And now to ground our image or ground the rabbit, you can start shading just behind and below the body to make it feel like it's actually in a place and not just floating. So take whatever pencil and just kind of add a little bit of shading here and there. You can blend it. You can not blend it, up to you. But make sure not to make the snow too dark or else it might look like dirt. And that's okay too. Gonna try adding some leaves, but otherwise, I think we're mostly done. Just add a couple of details if you want. All right, and I think we are done today's project. How did everybody do?